Okay, moving on to the next topic, guys. Flashcards. Now, this is a big one. So I want to make sure that I do this one right and go through it point by point. It's probably my favorite method, or my favorite way of studying, and it's probably the one that most students around the world are already familiar with, but the one that 99% of us do wrong, do badly. And I've got some examples here of ones that I've made which are not good, and some that are good, that are better at least. They work for me, but there are some things that you should do which should work for you no matter what stage you're at in secondary school or in university, and no matter what subject you're studying. This should work for all of them. So obvious things out of the way first. They are not class notes. Okay, so don't try and squeeze all of your class notes, everything that you've written in a lecture or in a class, into one flashcard. It ain't gonna happen. Okay, so unless your class notes are very unless there's not much to your class notes, and hopefully there is a wee bit more than just a flashcard for an hour's lecture or an hour's class, they should make you actively think. That's the sort of primary purpose of a flashcard, is to make you actively think of. So it's like a question. You'll have one side of it will be a question, and on the other side should be the answer. Okay, just one question. Create your own cards, take in the information, make it your own and personal. It helps establish unique neural pathways. Yeah, that's a big thing. I used to make flashcards for my students, which I know sounds ridiculous when you think about it, that I'm actually trying to do the revision for them as well. But it did help some students just get an idea of how to make their own flashcards. And I still do that with a lot of my students. I show them how I do it, and they don't have to obviously copy that technique, but it does help them come up with ways of doing it themselves. It needs to be your own work, guys. That's the main point here. So often students will use other students' flashcards, or maybe an older brother or sister, or students who did it in the past, and they just give all their revision notes and flashcards over to the student coming up behind them, the year below them or something. Not a good way of doing it. I think you really do need to put in the effort and the work yourself, because it needs to be something that you remember. And that's probably the thing, you actually remember studying it. That's something that I found when I was studying, is that I remembered the day when I studied this particular thing, because I found it really, really tricky, and maybe I found a new way of remembering it, and suddenly it clicked, and that was the eureka moment. So you're not going to get that if someone just offloads 300 flashcards to you and then says that's the whole of biochem first year undergrad work. Where you go, 300 flashcards, or indeed like 100 flashcards for GCSE music or something. You need to put in the time to do that yourself, because it will actually help establish memory patterns in your brain. And how do you do that? Well, the picture superiority effect, I'm sure some of you have heard this before, also known as dual coding. Add pictures or story scenes to your notes. Science tells us that we remember more information and for longer, and the crazier the image is, the better. So another thing when it comes to flashcards, aside from just having a question on one side of the little card and an answer and the answers on the other side, is to maybe think about putting in a picture. Now, the thing that I suppose I'll show you guys while we're talking about this is that this is the sort of flashcards that I use here. So you're talking maybe A5, like, well, not even A5, it's probably A6. Yeah, it's definitely not an A5. Yep. So the main thing is that it's completely blank. It's not lined. I don't like using some of the lined flashcards, the ruled flashcards, which look more sort of like this. Here, you guys can even see the lines in that, but yeah, trust me, there are lines in this. So the main reason, I suppose, is that if you're using completely blank flashcards, it makes it easier to draw little pictures and doodles and little things that will help jog your memory. And as I said, the crazier those little pictures and doodles are, the better. And you can actually put them all together to form a little story, which we're going to look at later, about the journey method of how to actually remember your flashcards in a particular order if you wanted to. It's a bit like remembering, you know, some people who have excellent memory, remembering an entire deck of cards shuffled. So yeah, the crazier the image is, the better. It only has to make sense to you. Picture superiority effect, memory retention after 3 days. If you're only using text or audio, 10% memory retention. But if you're using a picture, like the floor slippery when wet, I'm sure everyone has seen this sign somewhere and everyone knows what it means. That you don't even have to read the writing, if indeed there is any writing with it. You just know if you see that sign on the floor somewhere that you've got to be careful. And 65% of people will remember something that has a picture next to it, which is why obviously we have so many in, you know, modern day living. Even things like road signs, arrows, like people just know what they stand for. If you know your highway code at all, if you're doing any driving. Yeah, so using the pictures is obviously going to help with your memory because we do it all the time and we remember better in pictures as well. I'm sure when you guys are thinking of like your favorite film or something that, you know, you could probably tell somebody what your favorite film is just by going through it chronologically. How did it start? What characters are in the film? What actors play those characters? What the film's about? How does it progress? How does it end? So if it's your favorite film, you could probably think of it in your mind and go through it scene by scene. And that's how our memory works best, is through pictures. You're not really thinking of the text, of the, you know, the script or anything. You're thinking of the imagery of the film. So obviously pictures help. 5 qualities of good mental pictures. Think of space. There's another little memory technique. So yeah, acronym there. So S for stupid. Suppose the crazier, the better. The more stupid it is, the more ridiculous the picture is, the better. The more you're going to remember it. That little flashcard that I was going to show you guys. Let's see if I can, yeah, give you an example. Yeah, here's one here. So this is one of the set works that my students study at GCSE Music, and it's Handel's, from Handel's Messiah, and the piece is called For Unto Us a Child is Born. You don't need to know any of this, but you can see that I've got a wee picture of Handel up there in the top corner. So maybe having like somewhere in your flashcard, like a little picture somewhere, and maybe having a different one in the next flashcard to sort of tell a story. So maybe having Handel starting off with his sunglasses or something stupid, you know, just to get the mind going. And then maybe he's sunbathing on the beach or something. So again, the more ridiculous and stupid it is, the better. And then see, can you tell a story with that? What does he do next for the next flashcard? And then you get a story going in your mind, just like your favorite film, and you can put them all together and sort of assign in your mind, almost like a memory palace, but not quite. You're assigning in your mind all the facts about this flashcard or this particular picture. And then same for the next flashcard, and so on and so on. So the more stupid the picture, the better. The crazier it is, the better. Play on words, yeah. So if you can use something in your flashcards where you are using a picture that may use a word or a term that's similar to the explanation in the flashcard, that's really good. We're going to see a little example of that later. So play on words. A for action. Something needs to be moving or something needs to be happening. It can't just be a static image of, like, you know, a bowl of fruit or a house or something. Like something, some action needs to happen in the picture for you to remember it more. And it needs to be clear, high definition, and not confusing. So not too many things happening at once in the picture. So you just want one person, place, or thing at a time. And E, easy to see, something you can recall. Yeah, so if it's easy, if it's not too difficult, you know, that it's something that you could imagine rather than, you know, getting too abstract. You don't want like a sort of like a Picasso image in your mind. You want something that's easy to see and something you can recall. Okay, so the next thing then is using mnemonic devices. I'm sure you guys have come across some of these before. Memory aids, I suppose, is another way of thinking of them. The journey method, or the loci, the loci, I've heard both pronunciations on YouTube, and I'm still not convinced which one's correct. The journey method is another way of describing it. Associating places in order with particular facts. Yeah, it's a good way of remembering something. So, as I said, the one that I use with the flashcards is to have like a picture on each flashcard that tells a particular scene, a particular story. And you can actually move through the flashcards in order if you can get that story clear enough in your mind. And the more ridiculous the story is, the better. So having something like, you wake up in the morning, you go down the stairs, you go out your front door, you get into the car, you drive to college, or you're driven to school or whatever. It's not interesting. It's not crazy enough. Something maybe should happen, like, aliens from outer space attack. Something crazy. That needs to happen in the story for it to be more memorable. So remember, the more ridiculous the story is, the more likely it is you're going to remember it. Acronyms is a good, another good mnemonic device. The first letters together spell something else. So we've already seen one up here that I think of space when I think of the 5 good qualities of a good mental pictures: stupid, play on words, action, clear, and easy to see. Yeah, space, and gives me the first letter of each one of those. Acrostics is a really good one. Yeah, so acrostics, we use quite a bit of this when we're learning music for the first time. Some of you guys may actually, if you've learnt music, you may have come across this, but like every good boy does fine, or deserves football, or deserves fudge. There's loads of variations of this. But yeah, a way of remembering the sort of lines on the treble clef, and indeed having a face as well, spelling a new word, yeah, for the spaces in the treble clef. So all of these things, at least sort of acrostics, are good ways of remembering information. Rhyming, of course, I before E except after C. We've all probably gone through something like that when we're learning English in secondary school, maybe even earlier. Chunking, bite size, putting a lot of information into easily manageable bite size pieces of information. Remembering a mobile number is a good example. How do you remember something like, 07715772456? You break it up, 077 1457 0077, something like that. Okay, so you do it all the time without even realizing it. And of course, you guys know that when somebody says back your mobile number to you and they don't do it the same way that you've remembered, it kind of messes with you. You're like, no, is that it? Yeah. So yeah, that's why it's sort of a good way of remembering information. Chunking, remembering a mobile number is a good example, but you can do it with anything, of course. And this also feeds back into the previous topic we were looking at when we were talking about having an achievable goal. If you're going to put things into chunkable, bite-size pieces of information, it makes things a lot easier. Word association. Yeah, this is one of the things we were saying before about a play on words. So Karen is afraid of lightning. I can't remember. I have stolen this from someone on YouTube. I can't remember exactly who it was. Was it? I'm not sure if it was Ali Abdul's or Thomas Frank, or maybe on Jaded Jade. It was definitely somebody. He said that medical students and those who are studying psychiatry, they have a lot of different phobias, hundreds, or maybe not hundreds, maybe it is hundreds of different phobias that they have to learn for their patients. And Karen is afraid of lightning is one that I remember, even though I'm not studying psychiatry or anything, or medicine of any kind. So Koranophobia, I think that's how you say it. If I'm wrong, obviously, I'm sure someone's going to put me right if I'm wrong about that. So Karen is afraid of lightning. It's a fear of lightning. Koranophobia. You've learned something there right there now. If you want to sort of find a good way of making your answers on your flashcards rhyme with maybe the questions that you're putting on the other side, or maybe with the picture that you have, whatever. A good sort of place to look this up would be obviously online. Rhymezone.com is a good one. using the same memory skills you use for memorizing song lyrics. Okay, so yeah, Rhyme Zone's a good place to start, to sort of get a good list. Rhyming dictionary even, I suppose. You can type that into Google, you're bound to come up with something. Yeah, so mnemonic devices. Okay, so on to the next topic. Only one question on each flashcard. I suppose this is a little bit more flexible in the way I'm sort of phrasing it there, in that you could have a flashcard in where you are asking a question on one side, but then on the other side, where you have your answer, that could feed back into the question. So for example, the one that I have here are, what are the musical features of Theme A from Handel's From to Us a Child is Born? So what are the musical features of Theme A? And then on the other side, I've got the musical features of Theme A. So it's probably going to be back to front for you guys. Yeah, so that's the answer on one side, that's the question on the other. But on the side with all the answers, I also have who wrote this music, what composition is it from, or what theme is it? And then I can turn over the other side and say this is from Theme A, because I'm asking what are the musical features of Theme A. So you can have a flashcard in which the answer also can be a question for the other side. So each side answers each other. So it doesn't really have to be one question. Try to have it in such a way that no matter what way you pick up the flashcard, you can test your knowledge one way or the other. Yeah, so only one question on each flashcard, but you can obviously make it more. But don't have it too complicated. Don't have like a list, you know, or don't have a question that's like something ridiculous. What are the main historical what are the main consequences of World War I? You know, you're thinking you would need an encyclopedia to answer that. So you need a question that's quite specific and only has, you know, 3 or 4 possible bullet points as an answer. No more. I'm going to show you one of my flashcards that I made that maybe you have something like 10 points. It's probably not worth making the flashcard. And probably better splitting it up, chunking it into smaller sizes and making a couple of flashcards from it. Be careful once you've made your flashcards and you start testing yourself. Avoid the illusion of confidence. Recognition is not the same as recall, retrieving information from your brain. The amount of times I've done this where I've picked up my flashcard and asked the question, looked up into space, which is the real revision that you should be doing, is looking into the distance somewhere with a glazed look in your eyes thinking, what's the answer? And when you say to yourself, I can't really think of the answer, and you turn it over and you see the answer and you go, I did know that. No, you don't actually know it. Recognizing the right answer is not the same as knowing it. Okay, to know it, you have to be able to recall the information without any prompt whatsoever. Okay, so you can't have like a multiple choice sort of answer there. You can't have anything audio and music like listening to the piece in the background, or having the score open in front of you, or your class notes open or anything. You need to be able to remember the information from no help whatsoever. And that is really good recall when you can just remember it. That's what you're aiming for when it comes to flashcard revision, is this idea of recall. Okay. Break complex concepts. Try to say that again. Break complex concepts down into multiple simple questions. Bit of a mouthful, that. So yeah, take all the complex stuff and break it into smaller. Again, this is probably like chunking again. Breaking it into smaller, simple questions. We're going to be looking at the Feynman method later, what we mean by making something simple. So yeah, this is probably one of those things where having a huge flashcard for finals, we could only have one flashcard or notes. You don't want to be doing this. This is the antithesis is what we've been talking about. You want to avoid this, having like a flashcard with, you know, I don't even know how many lines of information that is, but it's way too much. And that's completely useless. You're just rewriting your class notes again, and you don't want to be doing that. So if you find that you're putting too much information into a flashcard, then obviously split it into 2 or 3 flashcards. Much better. You think you're giving yourself twice the amount of work, you're not. And you're going to make life a lot easier for yourself, and your brain's going to thank you for not putting yourself under so much stress and pressure to try and remember 500 things from one flashcard. Yeah, so break it into multiple simple things. Yeah, so there, for example, I'm at flashcard, I'm talking about what are the musical features of theme A from Handel's For Unto Us a Child is Born. The way I could have made that much worse would have been, what are the musical features just of the entire piece of Handel's For Unto Us a Child is Born? That's far too big for one flashcard. Theme A makes it a bit more specific, okay? And then have another one for theme B, and another one for theme C, and another one for theme D, and I think it only goes as far as theme E. So there are only A, B, C, D, and E. So rather than try to do all of them into one flashcard, obviously split it over several. Create your own flashcards on the Brainscape website. This is probably a little old-fashioned at this stage. It's still a fantastic website, but it's by no means the only one. For a while it was the main one that everyone used, but there are plenty of places you guys can go online for free and create your flashcards and print them out. A little bit tricky when you're doing it on a computer, I suppose, because you're probably typing things in, or maybe you want to doodle and draw with the mouse, but a lot easier for looking for, you know, pictures the way I've done. I've taken a real Wikipedia picture of Handel there and put it into the flashcard. So for me, I printed this one out, so it's nice and neat. Don't have to do that. Another one might be worth checking out is Go Conquer. Fantastic website where you can create your own flashcards, flowcharts, your own quizzes. Have a look at millions of other resources from other students and teachers completely for free from all around the world. And of course, you can do all of that inside the website. So flashcards, mind maps, flowcharts, quizzes, even making your own notes and presentations and everything. It's a brilliant website, Go Conquer. Definitely worth checking that out. Okay. So once you've created your flashcards and you've thought about the different mnemonic devices and what mental pictures you're going to do, and just one question on each side with an answer that only has 3 or 4 bullet points, how do you actually use the flashcards? What are you going to do with them once you've created like a couple of dozen or maybe a couple of hundred, depending if you're doing a whole subject like music or something? Well, one of the good techniques that students use is the Lightner box. As you can see here, you put all of your flashcards into the first box, and then you go through them. So that's the real revision, guys. That's the end of your revision, really, is once you've summarized your notes down and you've made your flashcards, the real work then begins of you trying to actively recall the information without any help. Don't have any of your books open or anything at all that would distract you or put you off or give you the illusion of confidence, as we say. So put all your flashcards into the first box, go through them one at a time, and anything that you're getting right goes into the next box. Anything you get wrong stays in the first. And as you go through the week, maybe first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, that's one way of doing it. There's a better way, spaced repetition, that we'll see. But say you're just starting off and you want to do it over the course of a week, it means you're kind of triaging the worst things and the best things about your knowledge of this subject. So the best things obviously progress very quickly towards the end, and happy days if it's most of the stuff. And anything that you're getting wrong stays in day 1, and you keep going through it until you can get it through all 5 days. And the real thing that students may find frustrating is that you may get it right the first, second, third, and fourth day, and then on the 5th day you get it wrong and it goes back to the start again, and you have to go through all of it again. So it's a real good way of keeping your memory up, keeping your knowledge brushed up and up to date, and keeping your memory active for whatever topic or whatever subject you're studying. So yeah, the Lightner box is brilliant. A lot of students just use an old shoebox for this. You can go online and be a wee bit nerdy like me and a bit fancy and get something that looks like this. I think I got this plastic lightener box off Amazon for about a tenner, I think. And it came with some flashcards, but again, it came with the flashcards that were lined, and that kind of is a bit restrictive for me. I like being able to sort of draw on the flashcard, or maybe do like a little miniature mind map or something of 4 points and a central point or whatever. So I just got other flashcards to go in it, as you can see, but color coordinated, and even then that's deliberate in my part. Some of the topics I teach students are, you know, I have them color coordinated for red, blue, yellow, green, and purple. So when it comes to revision time, they can even, you know, assign their flashcards to a particular color, which means when they're looking at the box, they can see what they want to study in a particular day. You don't have to go into that level of detail if you find that a wee bit nerdy. Yeah, it is. So yeah, the lightener box, you can make your own out of an old shoebox, and I did do that as well, but it just became, you know, over time torn to shreds. So I wanted something that would last forever and I could take with me through. Well, the one in my undergrad didn't last, so I wanted one for my master's and my PhD that was going to last a bit, because I thought I'm going to be doing this quite a bit, trying to remember these things when it comes to delivering a paper. You know, in a conference or something, you know, being able to sort of remember all the facts. So the lightener box is really, really good. Your flashcards progress to the next folder, or the next box, or the next day, whatever way you want to think of it. If you remember them, it does. Otherwise, they stay in the first day. After 7 days, you put them away. Yeah, you can, or even after 5 days, if you want to just leave your weekends free. Yeah, whatever works. Going back to recall, it's hard at first, but don't give up as it gets easier each time. Now, you can do it one day after the other, go through it in the first day, then go through the first and the second box in the next day, then go through the first, second, and third box in the third day. Yeah, because it means you're going through all of your flashcards, and you're going through the hardest ones more than you're going through the other ones, so because they'll stay there for a longer period. Yeah, you can do it that way, but a better way of maybe thinking about this is the spaced learning method, which is very well known, as is the lightener box itself, as is mnemonic devices and the picture superiority effect. All these are very well known topics. So spaced learning is probably the big one. And you can see here from this graph that when you're taught something, at the very first time you hear it, or the first lecture you go to, you immediately start forgetting it. Don't worry, this is completely normal. Everyone does this. And for some of us, it's probably, for me anyway, it's probably a lot more like that. It's probably quite immediate. So I kind of need, after I heard anything in class, I needed to go and sort of study up on it, because I wouldn't even remember what I'm supposed to study if I didn't do that. So for me, my memory was always a wee bit rubbish with this. So I wish I had have done spaced learning. It's such an effective tool, because it means on the day one you study it, and hopefully your memory of what you learned that day goes back up to here. And as you can see, once you've studied it the first time, the graph itself is not as steep as it once was. When you first heard it, you nearly immediately started to forget it. The line's a little bit more level. It's not as dramatic this time. And then on day 3, not day 2, like we were doing up here, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're skipping a day, spaced learning, and going to day 3, and you study the topic again, and it brings you back up to where you were, and you can see that the forgetting line is a lot less, it's more shallow than it was. And then on day 6, you study it again, and you're back up to hopefully near 100%, if not 100%. And eventually, by day 10, when you study it again, or whatever day it happens to be in your calendar, the rate at which you forget has dramatically fallen. So this is the spaced learning technique, which is very effective. Again, these are things I wish I had done when I was at college, or God, even in secondary school, it would have helped. So yeah, you don't have to do it exactly like this, day 1, 3, 6, and 10. You could do day 1, day 2, day 4, day 8, you know, that sort of thing. So it means that you are going over your Lightner box, all the flashcards, but you're not going over them all every single day. You're spacing your learning out maybe 4 times over the course of 10 days. So it's just something to bear in mind, to take into account that may work for you. So spread out your learning. If you answer the flashcard correct, it moves from daily, maybe to every second day. There's another way of doing it. And then to every week, and then every fortnight, and then eventually to the night before the exam. But don't do it late into the night. You want a good night's sleep if you can before any exam. The harder you have to work to remember something, the greater increase in your learning will occur. So you don't get anything for nothing, as they say. You have to put in the effort here, but at least this makes it far more enjoyable and scientific as well, that it does actually work. I know some of you guys might be thinking, this sounds like an awful lot of bloody work just to sort of study one topic, but it works, and it works for anything that you want to study, not just music, obviously, for any subject in school or college. Okay, so on to the next wee topic. What should make up a decent flashcard? This is quite simple. It's what you'd expect from everything we've already looked at. As little text as possible, believe it or not. Not this. This is hell. Avoid this at all costs. You do not want this. This is just... yeah, so try not to go overboard with the amount of text. Some of my flashcards are a bit like that. I can show you maybe one example here. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought, the example I had ready. There are a few though. Yeah, like here I have, what are the features of orchestration, or what features of orchestration are present in handles for unto us a child is born? That was the question. That is the answer. Far too much text, guys. Okay, so that's not a great flashcard. There is a picture in it, I suppose, but there's just too much, you know, information. I can't even remember what I put on that side. You know, so that shows you how valuable that was. But I hold on to it still as a teaching thing for students about what not to do, because I've made every mistake you can imagine. A lot of the things that we've looked at, I did the complete opposite. So as little text as possible, lots of empty space. Yeah, give your brain a nice sort of relaxing thing to look at. Lots of empty space, and just, you know, 3 bullet points, maybe with only 1 word per answer or something. 1 word per bullet point. Symbols and abbreviations are really good. Probably more in terms for sciences, but even if you're studying music as well, instead of saying what are the main melodic features, just write out the melody on the other side of the flashcard. You know, so get practicing writing the main theme. We're going to see what I've done for summarizing your notes later on, a little bit more about that. But maybe for the sciences, symbols and abbreviations are far, far more common than they would be, say, in, you know, music or history or English or something. Make it visual. So for me, the main musical motifs would be a good way of making it visual. So for the main musical features of theme A, again, sorry, it's back to front, but if I hold that up, you guys can see that there is a wee bit of music that I've written in there. You don't have to read it or anything. It's just to show you that there is something there, that I do have the main motif or the main theme written out. So that also helps when I look at that from that side. I can think, well, what theme is that? And I say, oh, that's theme A. And then I turn over the card and it says, what are the main musical features of theme A? So it works both ways if you make it visual. So that's the last point. Study your card from both sides. Make the answer a question to be answered on the other side. Yeah. So hopefully some of these things will help you guys as well for your flashcard revision. So I reckon a lot of it you've probably seen before, but hopefully there'll be some things there that are new to you and will get you started. Okay everyone, thanks very much for watching. There are plenty of other videos on my channel that deal with this subject and other topics you may be interested in. So if you want more, please like and subscribe. Leave any questions or suggestions you may have in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to get round to them. So do let me know if there are other things you would like me to cover, and I'll see you again next time.